Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So welcome to BCT Expo exhibition. So today will be a first day of our webinar, international sessions, and so on. Well, thank you and appreciate all audience and organizer, especially our, honorable speaker today. And it's my pleasure to actually welcome our keynote speaker. Well, thank you. I appreciate for your all contributions. So let me, allow me to actually make a quick introducing our keynote speaker today. So with the first one, and this moment, that will be our first time to actually have this high level engagement across the country in Asia. So our first speaker would be from India, Dr. Amanat, as the president of India BIM Association. So that's our first speaker. And also next will be from Hong Kong, China. So Francis, good friends. Well, we will welcome from Hong Kong Alliance Build Asset Build Environment Information Management Association. So we're excellent. Quite really welcome you to join our panel. Next up will be very close neighbor from Vietnam. We'll really welcome Mr. Bin, and very special moment to join is Bin also represent part of government as well. So Bin is the head of department, institutions of constructions and economy department. So really welcome Bin. And also William here, okay, one of long experience on the BIM movement over in Asia. So William is also the president of Build Smart Singapore chapter, and very welcome, William. And next would be our good friends, Patrick from Taiwan. So he is one of founders of Taiwan BIM Alliance, and as well as a professor over in Taiwan University as well. Welcome, Patrick. Unfortunate that's the technical issues a bit. We couldn't see Patrick clearly, but that's how. Anyhow, but Patrick will stay with us. So thank you for all our speaker. The event manager, could you join us as well? Okay. So we would like to begin. Is our agenda is here today. That we would like to see our great insight, stories about BIM adoption in each different country, and look at that information. The presentation is very exciting to see, what's those kind of movement, what's our neighbors, and of course like alliance. Each different country has been done from the past few years or decades and so on. So you're going to see the insight, the information from that. And afterwards, that would be a few discussions, exchange some idea among us, and also open up the question as well for our audience. If you have questions, can join us as well. So that would be targeted in our sessions then. Okay, so anyway, we won't want to waste any moment. I would like to welcome our first presenter, William from Singapore.
Right.
Our event manager, could you share the screen, please?
Okay, meanwhile, yeah, I'd like to thank BCT as well as Dr. Sampawat, for allowing me to meet people like that. It's been a long time. We got locked down because of COVID. So this is a good opportunity where I can speak to one another across using this Zoom to friends across the other part of the world, right? Okay, good. Can you just bring up the slides? Okay, right. Basically, I'm going to share our digital transformation journey from Singapore. Actually, we started this way back in year 2000 when we decided to go from 2D to e-submission. And that's how we started the journey. Of course, towards the later part of 2000, we started off with converting 2D to 3D, and softwares like BIM and all that come about. And yep, I'll go through this later, and if you find out more. Basically, I wear a few hats. I'm also in the Singapore Institute of Architects, chairing the IT committee. At the same time, I'm also the currently chair of the Building Smart Singapore, and also very involved in the steering committee as far as the digital transformation is concerned. All right. Okay, Building Smart Singapore, we are basically a non-profit organization. Our mandate is more to push, rather promote open standards so that the digital delivery can be done easily. We are part of a Building Smart International. Again, their main role is to promote IFC as a medium of digital transformation. And locally, our members consist of the TACGP, IHL. I'll tell you more about this later on, but essentially we have a strong mandate in terms of our stakeholders in the building building industries. Most of them are members of Building Smart Singapore chapter. Right. Tell you a bit about our digital transformation strategy. Our local building industry, what we coined as the built environment, is actually much led by BCA, Building Control Authority. However, to back them up, there's also a series of people in the team consisting of industry association, namely Institute of Architects, engineers, surveyors, contractors, and even developers. We also have government procurement entities. That's what I mentioned just as GPEs. Things like HDB, they deal with public housing. MOE will be all the schools. LT will be infrastructures like rails and tunnels. JTC more for the industrial building. MOHH will be all the healthcare facilities. Now, all these are actually, they run public projects. That means they're owners of these projects, and therefore they are a major part of the stakeholders, so to speak. We also have regulatory agencies in the committee, BCA, Fire Department, Water, Planning Department, etc. So this whole committee is known as the steering committee. So when we evolve from one stage to another, we ensure that any initiative that we want to carry out will have a strong buy-in before we carry out to the industry. So with that, like I say, I'll do a bit of briefing on what is BIM and why from BIM to VDC and to IDD. Like I mentioned, we started off the BIM roadmap in 2010. Essentially, we're trying to get individual discipline to jump on the bandwagon to adopt BIM in the practice. Initially, it was a slow take-up, but later on, when a consultant realized that the benefits of BIM, the take-up rate was much faster. However, from 2010 onwards, we realized that as the teams or cross-discipline is required, and therefore you need to share data and all that, we realized that you need something more than just to manage BIM. That's why we come up with the VDC roadmap, virtual design and construction, whereby we realize that you actually need to look at not just the skill set, but ways of working, the processes and all that. And we continued that. And of course, in the meantime, there are a lot of projects that are carried out using this, either the BIM or the VDC way of working. And as we move on further, we realize that more and more software have been implemented and used. And not only that, we are starting to use a lot of other devices as well. So we feel that we should move ahead and do another so-called roadmap towards IDD. IDD stands for Integrated Digital Delivery. If you see on the left-hand side here, we start from with design, fabrication, construction, and then the asset delivery, or what is known commonly as the FM. Now, exactly what is the IDD? All right, I'll present to you an IDD scenario. Initially, at the design stage, right, consultants will use a computational BIM to put out the design. They may even use analysis software, or even AR and VR are used quite extensively nowadays, right, to do so-called visualization. And coupled with that, lately, more and more people are using AI and machine learning to actually generate a lot of so-called options. Next, when we go into the manufacturing, before going to site, in fact, there are a lot of projects are using offsite construction first. That means, in other words, they actually do their major part of components offsite, and then they just deliver and install on site. So in this case, what is known as the Design for Manufacturing and Assembly, DFMA, in Singapore, we coin it as PBVC as a subset, whereby we have modules or part of the building finished in the factory before it's brought onto site to be assembled. Of course, you have to deal with how to deal with so-called the data delivery from the machine, from the BIM model to the machine, and even the how to cut up the pieces and all that. And construction, that's how we bring the BIM to field. Again, that's why we need a lot of VDC using, and even processes like GIS, 3D printing, drones, smart cranes, and exoskeleton. More and more robotics also being used, applied on site. That's why we feel that BIM is just not the only tool. You have to deal with a lot of other software and tools as well. Of course, right up to the completion stage with the asset delivery, more and more people are using not only just the finish a BIM model. In fact, they have to do laser scanning and smart FM to able to hand over the building to the user to able to manage it. Now, to do all this, we require a whole series of support. One is we need to have IDD platform. And more, especially at this stage, later I'll explain to you, we require to have a common data environment, delivery platform, in order to bring the data from very beginning, from design all the way to the completion of the building. In short, IDD is actually VDC plus IoT, Internet of Things, because we are using a lot of devices in addition to the softwares. Now, these are some of the projects that we use either the BIM or the IDD or VDC, right? This is Gardens by the Bay. We have two domes there, very non-rectilinear building. So it's a contractor's nightmare, but without BIM, it's really very hard to complete this building. So they really take advantage of the benefit of BIM to execute it and complete it. This is another crazy building. There's no straight wall. Everything is on the non-rectilinear. Again, I think without using BIM and the software tools, it's quite difficult or will be very challenging for contractors to complete this building. Of course, we have the sports hub, not just a stadium, but a lot of series of buildings all around it. And again, this is completed using BIM, and they managed to finish it on time and as well as within the budget. I'll touch a bit on this PVVC as mentioned just now. It started off with this hotel extension next to the airport. Due to the limited space, they have to pre-finish the hotel room, brought to the site, and then hoist it up and assemble them on site. That started our journey on the PVVC. So we have completed a public housing, Clementi Canopy. This is a 40-story fully PVVC construction. Currently, it holds the record of the tallest fully PVVC building. This is already under construction. This is another development. Once it's completed, it will even surpass the 40-story. It's going to be a 56-story PVVC apartment, right? Okay. I mentioned our roadmap from 2010 to 2021. We started off from BIM to VDC, and now we started the IDD implementation. So at every stage of our adoption landscape, we actually set certain targets, right? And we're glad to note that we actually achieved most of them. In fact, we are now planning ahead for the next leap in a way. So over here, we extend our roadmap from the IDD all the way to 2025. Of course, we realized that we need a lot of thinking. So we actually coined up, or rather conjure up, quite a lot of subcommittees to look specifically into some of these initiatives. And currently, we're working on the GPE standard. All right, we find that this is very key. We already launched the IMPQS. With this software, we're able to link the BIM model, and from the BIM model, the software is able to generate a specification. In this way, it will help the consultants very easily to put up. We also launched the DDM, Digital Delivery Management. Basically, we accredit BIM professionals all the way from entry level as a BIM modeler to a coordinator to BIM manager and to a BIM director. By doing that, we actually set a benchmark so that employer will be able to, when they hire some of these BIM professionals, they're assured that this professional will have the competency required of them at that level. Like I say, the CDE standard is actually in the advanced stage. We're going to complete it very soon. At the same time, we are also applying the ISO standard, the 19650, as well as the IFC standard. There's a parallel initiative going on to create a IFC SG standard to be used by the local industry. And this has got implication on the auto plan checker, right? Because we find the IFC is now very important, very key in order to make the auto plan checker work well. The intention is by 2023, we're going to relaunch the Cornet X. This is a revamped version of our original Cornet. So as you notice, there are a lot of activities going on. All of them are actually running in parallel, but they are somehow interconnected and related. Of course, this is basically to achieve our whole digital transformation journey. And not forgetting, we have the green mark, right, which is very key nowadays, especially on this climate change. With the so-called the IFM in terms of facility management. All these are actually along the pipeline as we progresses. We are taking cognition of all these requirements as well. Okay, coming to the end, challenges to achieving fully integrated digital delivery, right? Basically, there are a few points. One is a workforce skill set. How can we ensure that there will be a streamline of competent workers, right? Especially talking about digital delivery, able to support all the companies, right? So when you hire a BIM manager, how sure are you that you can get a really good guy, you know, who's able to perform the tasks as required? So that is one challenge. Second, fully integrated workflows. Now, at every stage of the project cycle, you know that you require certain ways of doing things. Now, can we find a so-called best practice or best way of doing it? Right, that will help us rather than creating more and more hurdles and creating more and more obstruction, that will delay the whole project. Finally, software and system interoperability. We realize now that BIM is just not only the only software. You are meeting with a lot of other software. Now, how can this software talk to each other at the various stage of the project process? All right, so this interoperability issue is really very key. We have to find solutions to it. And last but not least, standards. We find that standard is one of the major factors. If you have standard in all of these three items and subset, that will really, really help to improve the delivery of the project from beginning all the way to the end. Right. BIM collaboration, I like this term, right? ABC. But I think this is one of, as I shared with the rest of the speakers, this is a very interesting meeting, and perhaps this could be a start of something that we can really help each other. How can we help? Probably we can, first of all, at the various stages of the project cycle in the various countries, we can identify the gaps and challenges, then establish objective, how to overcome them. And perhaps through sharing and working with one another, right, we can adopt a win-win situation or strategies to overcome this. This is a very motherhood statement, but I guess when we go down to, you need to really go on to basics and find how can we overcome all this. I'm sure every country will have their own challenges. Even we ourselves in Singapore, right now we are also looking at this and how to solve this problem. But I guess if we put our heads together and support each other, perhaps we can bring the whole so-called the digital delivery in various countries to bring a level higher. And then through that, if we take baby steps, and later on we can really see the benefit that will come down to the whole industry. So with that, I'll end my speech. I hope we can conjure up more questions and hope that we can move from here on. Thank you.
Well, really appreciate, William. that's great presentation information for sure. I think we're gonna have a bit of talk. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Well, next would be Dr. Amanat. Well, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the invite. How will I be able to change the slides here?
You can tell organizers, or you can go by control, remote control on way to the top. Yeah. There's a view options.
View options, yeah. Then you click for the request control.
Yeah. Thank you for the invite for the ABC, shortly called as ABC. It's very interesting, and I think this should be taken further to collaborate with other regions. Today, I'm here to discuss about the kind of situations we are facing in India in terms of the digital transformation journey. I'm currently working in one of the EPC contractors called Larsen and Toubro, one of the Asia's biggest contractor though. And also volunteering for several initiatives to make sure that the digital transformation happens in the country, likewise in other countries. So this is my WhatsApp number. If anyone wants to reach me, you're welcome to connect. Next slide. So we have this forum, like how you have the BIM forums or councils or associations in other countries. I've come across roughly 40 countries having the BIM forums, roughly 50 forums overall. And I see that we are here roughly from 6-7 forums coming together. And we started our India BIM Association way back in 2016, but formal registration happened in 2019. And it's mainly to support the national digital transformation journey for the country. And our vision is to serve as a voice of India's BIM community, and it represents and supports and advocates on behalf of entire community to build especially the positive business environment for the digitalization. And we have currently performed strategic partnerships with some of the BIM forums like this, like Canada BIM, BIM Forum Brazil, BIM Africa, BIM Serbia, Thailand, Taiwan BIM Alliance, BIM for Turkey, and few other forum we are in discussions, including Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, and few others. Yeah, next slide. Yeah. In India, especially the AEC industry, what we call as architecture, engineering, construction, operation industry, is second largest industry after the agriculture. In fact, our economy is mainly depending on the agriculture as the first one, and the next one is the our construction sector. Indian AEC industry employs more than 35 million people, and it has second highest inflow for the foreign direct investments after the services sector. And it contributes almost to 11% GDP, and there may be a little bit of increase in past 1 or 2 years. Recent initiatives set by our Indian government, such as Make in India, and the kind of initiatives taken by the forums and councils are helping really to grow that transformation to happen. And BIM is widely accepted in delivering both building sector and non-building sector projects, including the linear projects, and also the kind of discussions are happening also for the smart cities in the country. Yeah. Looking into the maturity of BIM in our country, frankly speaking, most of the projects, especially the small, medium scale enterprises, are still at level 0. They haven't taken a decision to go with BIM. There are few companies which are working on a level 1. That means they're using BIM for a design and they have their own standards, but may not be workable with when 2-3 companies come together for delivering projects. There are where client mandates are already there in few types of projects like airports, metros, high-speed trains, and some of the other healthcare and few other projects where kind of level 2 requirements are there, and they expect for the digital twin. So the kind of requirements have changed, and people are working, including the design and contractors are working to make sure the digital twins are delivered. And when it comes to leading organizations, it may be a design contractor or a consultant, whatever, and they are now working towards how to get into the level 3, where you have the cloud-based solutions, focusing on the global standards and making sure all the teams across the life cycle are getting skilled. And this kind of initiatives are taken up by a few leading companies. And with respect to the education system, because for all these things to happen or the BIM to mature, education is very much important. BIM in our tertiary education system is at fundamentals. It's like the basic courses on BIM, and followed by there's a lot of initiatives on those lines. And especially in our Indian AC sector, it's mainly for building the ecosystem for digital transformation. So we connect the technology, policy, process, researchers to build that ecosystem and connect, because first is upskilling and then connecting the people so that the transformation can happen. Overall, to deliver successful BIM in projects and to realize the return on investment. So our roadmap is to mature and connect the different field players like academia, who can supply the BIM ready graduates, and the clients who need to expect BIM and use the digital twin for the FM. AC organizations who can deliver matured BIM in collaborative manner, and technology vendors who can mature their BIM solution towards the open BIM and integrated BIM approach. So a lot of initiatives are taken and events are organized on these lines. Next slide. Yeah. The overall agenda of ABC is very interesting, because it's about call for the Asian BIM forums and the communities to come together to understand what are the kind of synergies, what are the kind of loopholes, what are the kind of supports each other can provide. So Asia BIM collaboration between countries like what we have today is like India, Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan, Thailand, Vietnam, and few other regions may join in the coming sessions probably, and will help each of these regions to support each other in digital transformation journey, because there is a lot of things to learn from different countries, and it's always a synergy that can be created. And this initiative will work as a collective voice towards Asia BIM community in driving the change towards especially the policies, education, and maturing the BIM market or digitalization. And we at India BIM are open for strategic collaboration with other similar national forums to drive the digital transformation. You're welcome to connect with us, and thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you, Dr. Manat. Next, would hand over to you, Francis.
Yes, request remote control. Hi, I'm Francis. I'm from Hong Kong. Hong Kong, the BIM journey started from around 2000. We have almost 20 years of experience in BIM. The development of BIM in Hong Kong is a little bit different from Singapore. We are more like bottom up. Our people start BIM first. And then just recently, in the past few years, the government start to drive this BIM process in a system-wide approach. I'm the Vice President of Hong Kong BIMA. We are the chapter. We have the Hong Kong chapter of Building Smart International. We are now just 2 years old, just to start joining the this open BIM arena. And I'm also the founding chairman of the Hong Kong Institute of Building Information Modeling. We had 10 years experience already. And also I myself is a structural engineer by training. So the BIM development is from the people. We start from this kind of organization like HCI, BIM. And then we try to get the big community first before the industry start with it. Our Hong Kong chapter is formed by 3 founding members. We are all organizations. So we are the Hong Kong GISA, the Geographic Information System Association, the Civil Building Information Management Institute, and also the HKIBIM. So we believe BIM is not just for building, it is also for civil projects, and also we extend it to GIS. In particular, for Hong Kong government, we move on to digital map. We don't want to rely on commercial digital map. We want to have an official government map to support the smart city initiatives. In the recent years, start from 2018, the government start mandate the use of BIM. They send out the technical circular to specify all projects at the worth of 30 million Hong Kong dollar shall use BIM. In that sense, basically, almost we will say almost more than 90% of our projects need BIM. At that moment, although it's called mandatory, it's not so specific. But after these few years, now we have mandate the use of BIM and the area of BIM. So we have set up 20 different BIM uses for 3 stages. And actually, in the coming days, it will extend to the 4th stages, which is the facility management. And that means in each of these stages, we need to mandatorily use BIM in different aspects. It is quite specific. And so projects, no matter it's consultant or contractors, need to move on to BIM. And also because it is not just government funded project, but also entrustment works and subvented capital works, which means projects like railway, airport, and hospital, which combined with, and also public housing, which combined with almost 90% or 95% of the Hong Kong projects are demanding BIM. So this is a big drive to the market, and the whole market is getting crazy. We are now talking about we may not have sufficient people, we may not have sufficient leaders in the BIM practice or others. So we are trying very hard to match with this movement. At the same time, we have this pseudo-government organization, the Construction Industry Council. So they are the executive arm of the Government Department, the Development Bureau, to help the construction industry to move on in the whole construction industry. So one of their key topic is BIM, and actually now they move on to digitalization of construction industry. In the past few years, they did a lot of promotion to people to help the people to upskill their knowledge and experience in these new things like BIM or even GIS. And they develop now is more than 20 different standards for BIM in different applications, uses, and in different areas. So we believe, as William said, that standards are very important for the wide adoption of BIM. So we start with all these standards first. And at the same time, CIC is the one to support the industry by funding, government funding. They have the CITF, the Construction Innovative and Technology Fund, to help the industry to get hold with hardware, software, and training. And also we encourage innovative items or invention to help the industry to move on. So they are another way to drive the change in the industry. So on one side, the Development Bureau mandated, and then CIC gives support to the industry. So that's why the industry has moved on quickly in the past few years. At the same time, CIC put up this certification and accreditation. The certification to individuals. They set up these 2 roles. It's called CIC Certified BIM Managers and also CIC Certified BIM Coordinators. Because the Development Bureau's technical circular mandates these roles in projects. So then the industry just asks who are qualified to take up these roles, and that's why CIC set up this certification system to people. And for manager, we expect we need something like 1,200 BIM managers, and now we have certified more than 400 to support the projects. For coordinator, we need even more, but the process is a little bit slow, and we just started 2 years ago, and now we try to mandate it in projects to have so-called CCBC in our projects. But for CCBM, is already mandated. So projects, when they start, no matter it is for the consultant side or contractor side, they need to include a project BIM manager in their project. So that's why you can imagine so many projects with so many sectors. We need so many managers. Me, I'm also a project BIM manager in a railway project. So you can see we need a lot of this kind of people. And luckily, CIC has taken up this role. And also for the accreditation, because for this kind of certification, we need them to take BIM courses. So the accreditation of these courses is the role of CIC. We have a bigger target for this digitalization in our industry. In fact, it is the Smart City Initiative. The government want to open more information to the market, so people can get use of this information to improve their life. So one big item is the digital map. Government has set the target of 2023, so 2 years later, to have the digital map available for the market. We have the first phase already. In the digital map, we have some kind of information available already, but in 2023, we expect it will be more and more building information and even 3D buildings or even information about inside buildings. So all this kind of information we expect it should come from projects. So after project is done, we expect the information can pass on to asset management. And then those asset information can be simplified for information shared to the public. So this is our long-term target. So in short, basically our digital movement is more about information management. We try to enable the free flow of information. We may not set fixed rules of what kind of flow we need, but the whole industry, everybody are trying to work within their own position to try some information exchange. And so that's why we need Open BIM, we need Open CDE. And because we spend a lot of time in BIM in projects, in design stage and construction stage. So these are all dynamic information rather than just the asset management. It is more like the static information for the asset. But for design and construction, we found it's not easy to manage this dynamic information. So the Open BIM standard, Open CDE standard is our need to move on. And also we put a lot of effort in the BIM GIS integration because Hong Kong people are quite familiar with using digital map. We found restaurants from apps, we found places, we can't remember the road name and street name anymore. So the BIM GIS and the GIS is the future platform for everybody. So we expect that is the platform for the information access. So this is our direction and this is our journey in BIM. I think the BIM adoption in Asia is a very good topic here. We have some kind of collaboration in the past, like big companies, they have different offices in different countries, we work together, or even for individual projects, we involve individual people, like the Star Performance Art Center, I did the BIM model, I did the facade panelization. So we have this experience already. And I think we can share more about this experience so we can upgrade ourselves quicker than just we work on ourselves. Hong Kong is also working with the GBA and the Greater Bay Area, which is the Guangdong province of China. So there are 60 million people. So they are also moving on to BIM, and we are also working with them to establish standards and process. So a bigger community, a wider community can move on to BIM and digital. So that is it for my sharing, and I pass it back to Dr. Sen.
Well, thank you, Francis. That's amazing then. Well, next I guess that will be Patrick.
Yes, yeah. Sorry that my camera Actually, my camera physically is okay, but somehow Zoom cannot get a signal from my camera. And I check on the web, and probably I have to restart my computer to fix the problem. But so bear with me that. But I put a nice photo of me on the first slide. So this is me. My name is Sangshan Patrick Xie. Currently, I'm a professor and chairman at the Department of Civil Engineering, National Taiwan University. And I'm also serving as a director in Research Center for Building and Infrastructure Information Modeling and Management. Next slide, please. So today, I think I will firstly briefly introduce NTU BIM Center. And then I would spend a few slides to introduce Taiwan BIM development. So in 2009, the NTU BIM Center was established to provide a platform for industry, academia, government collaboration on BIM adoption and application in Taiwan. And this signified the beginning of active involvement from academia in helping the industry and government for BIM adoption. Since then, some university and companies in Taiwan started to establish their own BIM centers. In 2015, we established Taiwan BIM Alliance, which is supported by the NTU BIM Center, and also we got the financial support from Taiwan's Ministry of Science and Technology. The alliance accepts only industry members, and up to this month, the alliance has 50 industrial members and 6 governmental members and 17 academia members. Also, in 2018, there's another organization called Taiwan BIM Task Group established. This one, we only have 5 members in it. And the goal for Taiwan BIM Task Group right now is to promote international standards like ISO standards to Taiwan construction industry, and also serving as a stepping stone in transforming the industry into the digital era. Next, I'm going to introduce Taiwan BIM development. In 2014, Taiwan's central government started to promote BIM applications. After a few years to test run BIM application in some public construction projects, almost all major national projects are requiring BIM applications now. Although right now in Taiwan, we haven't established national BIM standards yet, the requirement on BIM application for major public construction projects by both central and local governments in the past few years has significantly driven the BIM implementation in the construction industry. Some local governments or national agencies have developed their own guidelines for BIM application. Among local governments, New Taipei City and Taipei City governments are the 2 leading ones to have required BIM applications in their public construction project and help pushing the construction industry to be BIM ready. One particular government effort to mention is the New Taipei City government's implementation for a BIM-based building permit application review platform that requires submission of BIM models for automatic review of design regulations for building permit application. Next slide, please. Yes. Nowadays, for most major design firms in Taiwan, they all have high degree of BIM capability to handle BIM design project and continue to deepen BIM applications into their design process. Recently, they even have started to use BIM as a driver to transform their design process for achieving design automation. They also provide BIM services for the owners and construction firms. I know one engineering consulting company, one of the leading one, they actually have developed facility management tools for owners, especially for government owners to manage maintenance and operation of public infrastructures. For most major construction companies in Taiwan, although they have different focuses and degree of BIM applications in their construction management, they are all aware of what BIM application can help them in pre-construction examination on design integration and constructability, construction management coordination, quantity takeoff, quality assurance, risk reduction, and construction safety issues. Several leading companies have already integrated or started to integrate BIM applications into their project management systems, including development of apps on handheld devices for construction quality inspection and issue management. One construction company I know have also developed a BIM-based facility management system for public construction project they constructed. Design build projects are mostly encouraged for BIM applications in Taiwan. So this mechanism actually help to promote BIM applications. Previous slide, please. Yeah. And after so many years of BIM promotion and application in Taiwan, major designers and contractors in the construction industry have all equipped with good BIM capability. And right now, more and more owners, including governments, are currently requiring BIM application for facility management. So in the past, the focus more on the design and construction, but right now, even the government has already moved forward into the facility management application. Recently, with the availability of BIM-related ISO standards, several design firms and construction companies in Taiwan have completed ISO series certification. Next, please. Because BIM implementation involves much more than technology adoption, there are still many challenges ahead to be fully addressed, including business process re-engineering with improved regulations, cultivation of new talents, customization of tools, standardization and automation for efficiency and quality improvement, etc. And it has been obvious that smart city development will be leading advancement of BIM development in the year to come. Also, it has been well recognized that major construction investment of the world in the next decade will be in Asia. Therefore, I think there should be a lot of opportunities for Asia BIM collaboration. Thank you very much for your attention. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Patrick. Just kind of amazing information. Then, well, next from Vietnam, Bin, we'll hand over to you. Bin, you mute your microphone. Okay, but perhaps a technical issue and so on. I can let's do this way. So I can contribute first. Maybe we can reach out Bin afterwards then. Okay. Okay, so organizer, could you jump over to my slide, please, then? Oh, okay. It's manual click here. Sorry, I had to jump over. Okay. Okay. So meanwhile, I think BIM has this kind of technical issue and so on. No worry then. So I think organizers could help. So of course, last but not least, okay, I'm not the last one yet, but I'll introduce myself a bit. We are, compared to the whole global. Okay, been here. Well, since I'm here, I'm going to go over then. So what we hear as a representative of Thailand, and we young compared to the rest of the countries today. Of course, I introduce myself a bit. My name is Dr. Sanpawat Jatupat Palankuns as volunteering. So the head of the BIM Standards and Executives Committee and so on from Thai BIM Association, and also the choir founders of a BIM community in Thailand, BIM Club Thailand, and also the as professions in the positions of digital practice leader, or consulting Thailand, as well as in academia profession as well. Teaching in school architecture at Assumption University. So what I like to bit slow. Okay, so give a brief introductions on the road has been establishing from our association and so on. So we talk about in Thailand as one of the unique things in here. It's quite similarity, like what Francis has been explained. The event or this kind of movement has been established from the ground up. So we build up from the user pretty much like that. And of course, the BIM is not new for Thailand. Has been all over the place for at least 10 or 20 years, but really big booming for the past 10 years. So what we actually have done, we're not only the first organizations or associations. Our profession has been started off a lot of stuff, movement and initiative a lot. But one thing is that we realize that BIM is not only one man show. We cannot just work and become a Superman. It's only one team. So we need to actually enhance the ability of collaboration. So that's why the role and our philosophy of Thai BIM Association, we talk about part of inclusion, part to insert ourselves. And our steering committee, as initiative has been building up from each representative from different kind of institution, association, club, or even private sector. So that's the way we start to form our group. And what we defining as in BIM in here is not only particular building. We believe, based upon our philosophy, that we believe that digitization and innovation, digital disruption would actually supporting business-driven force. An AEC, AEO, and so on, in order to improve and create a better quality of any built environment. So it's not only the building, we're going to the whole built environment toward into infrastructures as well. That's kind of idea. And of course, there's a lot of activity and so on. We apparently, we're setting up the missions a bit, according to the ideas that why we need to setting up our organization association. So what we like to do, we make sure that our organizations become a neutral organization who actually supporting knowledge, helping in a national competitiveness, supporting the business segment, either government or private sector. We want to promote or information, centralized data and sharing and so on. So I think that's kind of bottom line that once everyone, even though it's new, or maybe it's not really new, at least everyone or every single segment, business segment can start off with something. So like standardized guidance and so on. And of course that we aim high for sure with the lesson learned from, you guys countries, Singapore, otherwise Hong Kong, and so on. So we know that now the expansions of technology is moving further and larger for sure, and it's go beyond the building segment, infrastructures as well. So we of course we initiative a lot, engaging the idea of a smart, well, at the city level perhaps, so mega informations. So somehow we're moving toward to a smart city in the near future, based upon a lot of lesson learned. What was something of significant information statistically that would inform the how growth of this BIM market would moving forward from the past 5 years up to now and in the near future. So we look into the part of, we do have actually have information from all some of applications, BIM applications based upon the locally. So we see the projections of the movement, how much of the people start to involve and looking for and demanding and so on. So you look at this kind of bit of information that moving forward, part of any relevant applications in the building movement and so on is moving forward for sure. All right, and it's getting higher and higher every single year. And 2019 is turned up to the peak, into the highest level, up above like over 90%, increasingly demanding based upon application relevant to the building. While at the same time, the infrastructure start to become expand. If you look the economy, throughout the Asia, especially in Thailand, we started building up a lot of infrastructures, new airport, new high-speed rail, so on. So that's why demanding of infrastructures, looking for the right technologies to build up environment, of course, and so on. But last but not least, as we understand that BIM is not, it doesn't come only a part of helping us in order to making 3D visualization, but of course, like, communication wise. So we talk about expansions, exponential growth of this market demanding is about collaboration. So if you look at like kind of 2017, this become a big giant boom and getting growth a lot. So this statistically would actually read situations over in Thailand. What about BIM maturities in Thailand is here, as we mentioned a bit earlier. What's the unique part of Thailand is start from user-centric. So it's ground up, it's built up from the base. Who is interested in to build up and use these technologies all about private segment. And the private segment has been believed that the technology will reach them over to the point of, time, cost, quality for sure. Your efficiency is about the constructions and design, about the cost and operation. So that's kind of aim and vision into coming future or even now. And we believe that hopefully in near futures, that would be somehow the challenge or the future synergy, between private segment and the government. Okay, but now the whole user academic, education part, private segment, institutions, market, the business model, investor. Now we handshake, of course, and even a professionalship, professional council from architects and engineer science also now all professions now and collaborating very strong. And we're looking forward to work with the government. And of course, the government now working with us, but it might take quite a bit of a moment according to this, do this kind of synergy and so on. So of course, like our BIM maturity, we have done, if you look at quite a few flashing samples, so that, this is all about private product, okay? Single residence complex, mixed use style, a lot high-rise building complex, and also even transportation. So on this one, just a few samples on it. Our talent in here, skill and technical skill is very good, because we have done this from the past 10 years and then even getting better and better. What it's come as a challenge and this maturity, it's, you look at this here and then it's very different. It would be very similar to any other country once we build the BIM competency ground up, so most of the cases we may focus on, modeling, technical skill and so on. But as everyone has been explained, that BIM is not only part of the 3D visualizations and modeling and so on. There's another dimension of maturity as well, all right? And one of the challenge for us, like, you know, everyone's so great about it, the technical, but we need collaboratively talking and working together. So that's kind of one of the challenge. The last challenge would be, well, the trend of smart cities will become a trend of the world, even though even Southeast Asia for sure, or entire Asia, who really understand how to manage the whole set of data in here. So a lot of great innovation, but how to implement it. All right. Okay. So that would be a bit of challenge in Thailand. So yeah, well, I'm already said, so there's a lot of questions about this kind of challenge and so on, and education. Every single country also explained this. Then we start up working on part of certification, design the curriculum, you know, to ensure that we have the right people skill. Demanding exactly like Hong Kong, you know, we demanding a lot of new challenge. Next generation to actually adopting the ideas of digitization, BIM will be part of it, you know, into embedding over to engineering as well as and architecture or any kind of design discipline and so on. Need to understand this kind of perception and so on. And the education part, it couldn't build fast enough. So we actually having issues right now, of course. And the most important part, because we're looking for the challenge of the whole synergy from the ground up. And we're not only looking for only the ground up, we need to work collaboratively. So what most of the time, like right now, we got a contract from the state or you know, authority, government, public authority or somehow. So people talk about BIM as BIM, that's it. So that's kind of challenge, that lack of awareness and really understand how we can take into account to move forward though. So once we get into weak on contractual agreement, so we lost the point of the goal. So we not sure like where to go, how to implement and so on. So and the most important is not about the technology, it's about the change management, the culture change, the transition of change, work behavior need to be changed. So that's the way of things need to get work. And of course that we as in Thailand as a representative, so we're looking for a way of fighting, yes. We not only Thai BIM Association, you know, Architecture and Engineering Council, you know, it's a lot of different institutions has been done a lot, you know, BIM adoption guideline, BIM guide, and so on, or even recently. And I totally agree with every one of you. You know, we looking, I think we inside of something. We are looking for something like you know, what's been William has been named as ABC. I think it's good words, and looking for future is that we would actually enhance exchange knowledge for sure. This is fundamental. But what we actually can do, we actually can help and visualize or forecast our future Asia maturity. And that would be the whole guideline or somehow, you know, moving forward in this kind of industry and so on. So I just would like to touch base really fast, and then I'll hand over to Bin from Vietnam. Okay. Like, I'm sorry, Bin, I have to go like this. Apologize to skip things over. Okay. Hand over to you, Bin, from Vietnam.
Thank you so much. So should I share my screen?
No, I think the presentation is still on. Let's see.
Okay.
Okay, here you can control as well.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So hi everyone. It is great honor to be here. My name is Binta. I'm the deputy head of the BIM task group, assisting Vietnam BIM Steering Committee, and also I'm working at the Institute of Construction Economics that belongs to Ministry of Construction of Vietnam. So today I would like to share with you some information about the like the digital transformation journey in Vietnam. So we have a national program starting from 2017, more in December 2016 by the Prime Minister, which divide the timeline into three different parts, which is the first one is to raise awareness and encourage projects to adopt BIM, but at the same time prepare legal framework, BIM guideline and training. The second part was dedicated in piloting BIM in design construction, but also facility management for different projects, and then for evaluation of that piloting phase. And then this year we supposed to apply BIM in the construction industry with an increasing percentage of adoption. When we have the national BIM program by the Prime Minister, Ministry of Construction was assigned to lead and coordinate with other ministry with different provinces. We have 63 provinces in Vietnam to implement the BIM program. So we have a BIM steering committee, and then under that we have BIM task group who take care of day-to-day work, and then also we have expert panel to help with the BIM guideline standard, but also for training, policy, and so on. And our institute is the standing agency. So we divided the program into 4 work streams according to the handbook from European public sector, which are foundation of public leadership, where every action concerns the BIM steering committee, and then identify BIM pilot projects, as you can see on the screen. And then also about a communication vision and foster community in the construction industry, where we organize a lot of activities such as conference, event, and then also coordinate activity from different group such as BIM community, and then university, and so on, to promote the community of practice at regional level, but also at discipline level. Another very important work stream is to grow industry capacity, where we published, the Ministry of Construction published the BIM learning framework, and then provide BIM training for public projects that participated in the pilot program, and then later will implement the BIM pilot projects. And then we monitor and evaluate these projects closely. And then the last part, when we evaluate and then monitor these pilot projects, we published also the BIM guide, with the first one is common BIM guide for the pilot program, but then later we kind of finalize that and learn from pilot projects to publish like a finished common BIM guide and detailed BIM guide for infrastructure and then building program. But then we keep like a learning from the projects and then changing the BIM guide to be suitable with the situation. So here you can see some of the communication events such as conference, you know, international cooperation and so on. And then about the common and collaborative framework, we began to include the use of BIM in the construction law since 2014. But then later we include that also in some of the decision coming from the Ministry of Construction, which is which lead the BIM steering committee in 2017, and then later publishing the list of pilot projects, and then finally in 2021 we have a detailed BIM guide and the common BIM guide as well. So comparing to other countries, we have been publishing also different regulation, but also technical guidance and template to have the BIM projects in Vietnam, such as EIR, employer information requirement, which is now with ISO 19650 is exchange information requirement, but also other regulations. So that BIM project in Vietnam can use, and we intend to draft and publish other BIM guides such as for specific type projects, for example, road, railway, and so on. So this year we focus on the BIM roadmap because the decree by the Prime Minister about project management, the decree stated that the BIM roadmap will be issued by the Prime Minister. So this year and probably next year as well, we focus on proposing the BIM roadmap to the Prime Minister to have the BIM mandate from the government, which will state the percentage and the kind of projects that will be mandated to use BIM. Along with that, we will develop a long-term vision and strategy for digital transformation, because nowadays it is a strategy that impact every aspect, not only in the construction industry, but also other industries as well. We continue to support BIM projects and encourage client, big developer to adopt BIM in the projects, and we continue to improve regulation and BIM policy in Vietnam every year. So the last slide would be dedicated to international cooperation. I think that Asia BIM collaboration is very important, that we can share between the neighbor. We've been participating in the BIM Symposium for Government, which was started in Singapore from 2014, and we learn a lot from that. A lot of country participated in the BIM symposium and share lesson learned in that symposium, which help the BIM program in Vietnam. And also we have an opportunity to have the collaboration between UK and Vietnam in global infrastructure program, and later a global BIM network with other countries. So we think that it is very important for public sector, but also private sector to collaborate and then sharing lesson learned so we can improve the use of BIM in projects. So thank you. That was my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you, though. Thank you, Bin. That's just along the histories then. Event organizer, could you go to the last page then? Way to the last. So, okay, that's kind of speed forward. So anyhow, before we get into kind of panels a bit and a bit of questions, so there's quite a few questions, of course, come across to this, and just let the audience know that we also providing, you know, a white paper, so collecting and contributing for each different country. What about the BIM movement and adoptions about page and so on, that would actually you know, help us to the audience to understand the kind of quick snapshots about the movement all over the place and so on. Yeah. Okay. I believe if we actually organize, you know, William, face-to-face conference with giving you 1 hour each, for sure. In this case, that yeah, we need longer session. Anyhow, so since been kind of quick question, and this could be sharing, you know, with this kind of panel, and of course, and so on, you know, question can be all over the place. You know, since of course I would like to ask quite a few questions first. Then, been very interesting though. Not only Vietnam, of course, that Taiwan and other countries as well. But you know, the question would be direct to you, Bin. I understand that now, and even start from the first day, the government has been driving a lot on BIM, and you are representatives of the government. So what is inside of the government? What did the government see as your representative of the government? What did you see as a, you know, awareness on this? Why government need to drive this first? And you push this very strong push. It created a lot of stuff. All right, I'll give it to you, you know, to kind of share the thought then.
Thank you. So, you know, even now within the government, different agency and department have different like level of awareness about BIM, but in total, everybody agree on the fact that BIM bring the most of the value for the client as well. And in Vietnam, the government have a lot of public projects, so we intend to manage the project better, and then have the benefit from BIM. But also that I would like to state that you know, we talk a lot about smart city and so on, but you know, we need to base on something which is you know, the data coming from BIM, which is essential for a smart city program or so on, because with without this data, we cannot develop further.
Well, no, thank you, Bin. Then, so as following questions, then, so since the government, as your representative in here, providing a lot of input, establishing the standard in coming future, of course, a lot of activities in here. What's the responding from the private segment? Is it how you work collaboratively from the government section to the private section? Is that everyone totally agree and adopt from your policy? Is that how this thing work?
So when we started the BIM program, we kind of sent out official letter from to every ministry, and then like a big developer, to encourage them and to register and to choose projects to adopt BIM. And we received a lot of answer. A lot of organization would like to adopt BIM, and then finally, when we go through all these lists, we have a list of 32 pilot projects to adopt BIM. Not all of them could kind of go through with the BIM process, but we did have some of the projects started and adopt BIM in the projects. Since we have a lot of public projects, so when we adopt BIM in public projects, we have the private sector to follow as well. Some big developer in Vietnam request the use of BIM in design stage as well. So when they do that, a lot of like a design company, they know that they're gonna need to adopt BIM, and without that, they could not get into procurement. So it did push the industry a lot in that sense.
I see. So government, it's initiative, right? Initiate this in order to find way finding and joining up, in order to make sure that the private PPP, a public and a private segment work collaboratively. Okay, so as a government contribution, and in this case, great. Then thank you, Bin. Thank you so much. Then, so I think it's kind of similar case, and I want to ask Patrick as well. And you talk a lot on government initiative, and the government has been driving over, especially the ministries of science and technology, of course, and so on. And is it because of, and then you point out the samples a lot about the kind of public utilities and transportation infrastructure and so on. Is it because of the government seeing issues or any constraint or any opportunity why the government need to push the BIM into the national level?
Well, this is another easy question to answer, because when we say government, it's a collection of mind, and some things that we should move forward, and then BIM can help the construction industry to get better quality, risk reduction. But some part of the government leader may say, well, let's wait and see. So it happens in Taiwan. Some local government, there are some very nice kind of leaders with vision, and they feel that this is the way to go. So they started to push along. And then once they mobilize some leading consulting and construction company to buy in or to adopt BIM applications, and then all these leading company will take this as an advantage for future project, right? So that kind of move forward, and a lot of company will just follow. And then other local government will say, well, because they are also strong competition among politicians, among local governments. So some local government will say, wow, seems to be a trend to catch. And then so we also need to push. So once you reach that critical mass, and then it becomes a movement, right? So that's kind of this, but I think a lot of leaders that they actually know that they are actually looking for facility management, that the benefit for that. And then right now in Taiwan, the government is building more social housing, and they need to maintain and operate those social housing. So they do have more demands on these kind of public facilities, that they not just go through the design build, but they also need to operate and maintain. So there are more demands coming. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but it's, and you also need to give credit to academia like us, that we put a lot of effort try to promote BIM application and try to educate people, the talents, and then also try to help the government to set up the guidelines and so on. So it's a collective effort. Yeah.
Totally, to 100%. And I understand that you've been through quite a few years and then kind of push this, but well, then outcome is positive, right? So
yes.
I think that will be blessing for the future of Taiwan, for sure.
Yep.
I would and over to Francis, you know, and similar story to Thailand. I guess we kind of build up from the ground up, work quite a bit, really hard, you know, in order to make strong communication. So what's kind of challenges in order to get into the level of accomplishment, you know, from the ground base up in here, and then talk to a government, you know?
Yes, the challenge is seems we focus too much in the so-called individual excellency. So people who work on BIM think they are the expert in BIM, but when we now get on to government projects, it seems BIM, if we look into the information management, it is a big system. So we cannot just have all the experts working on itself. But in the past 10 years, we didn't establish this kind of standards or practice to go for. We just use BIM to solve our own individual challenge in our projects, in our everyday work. So we can solve those problems, but then for the project in the whole, or for big enterprise like the developers or even the government departments, they don't have this interest in BIM because they don't see how we can help the whole system. Luckily now the government start moving on, and also we have this kind of big enterprise like the railway, the airport. When they are aware of this information management, they see BIM is the big thing to handle their asset, because the traditional asset information management system without the geometry, without the building elements, it was focused too much in the building surface. They're talking about the facilities, not the asset itself. So now these two parts combines together. The systems, the enterprise, want the individuals to work in this system-wide approach. So this is the challenge we are having now. And also, when we move on to China, the Greater Bay Area, Shanghai, the big area that is having the size of the Hong Kong island, has developed quite fast in the past 10 years. So now they have a lot of information in hand, and then it is a good start to manage this information from scratch, because they don't have the historical data like the drawings or other records or reports. So now if they can move on quickly to digital information management, then it sets a good standard for Hong Kong as well. So this is our opportunities.
I see. Thank you, Francis. You also, well, one of presentation in the year has been demonstrated to talk about a lot of certification, and it talk about like kind of right now it's lack of people skill, demanding a lot. It's kind of big things about like certification, BIM managers, coordination. Is this first priority right now that you need to put, you know, a new generation up into a level?
Yes. The traditional people, it's quite hard for them to change. They have their skills and tools to use. So the only opportunity is to ask the young people to get on with these new tools first. But the challenge now is that the young people may not have traditional experience of our traditional professionals, like engineers. They don't read drawings. They don't know our language. They know how to operate the software. But we found out it's not easy for them to work on the model if they don't know our traditional knowledge. So we need to quickly, so to pick up with the software is easy, just weeks or months is okay. But for traditional knowledge, it takes years. So now the traditional people try to help on this. So the young people become, we always set an example saying we have cars, now we need drivers to drive the cars. So they may not know the ways to go, and the traditional people or the people sit at the back will tell them. So these two groups of people need to work together.
Well, thank you, Francis. That's quite a story. You know, need to know more how to achieve then. Dr. Amanat, I would just wonder, you know, you talk about the voice of India somehow, and I think the India would be one of the great country, especially on technical skills. A lot of really good knowledge in this, you know, throughout the Asia as well. Could you elaborate more about the voice and how you know organization associations like you know establishing this voice and how you respond back to the community and so on? Is that kind of responding to the market or somehow, or is that kind of changing, you know, moving perceptions to the future and so on? You know, could you elaborate a little bit more? Dr. Amanat, you mute.
Sorry. So, well, when we say the voice, the most important thing to know is in India, from past 2.5 decades, the BIM services are being delivered for the global market. By now, at least 60 plus countries are taking the services from our country on the modeling, documentation, basic things. Number one, it's about the technical skills available at a cheaper price in the country. And also the technological developments, the BIM technologies which are developing, the backend teams are sitting here and setting that up. So the most important thing here, also the researchers, there are most of the Indian researchers working globally and contributing a lot for the industry. So, but when it comes to the global market, the voice is not there, you know, when we say India. So they say it's not so matured, but frankly speaking, there's a lot of Indian initiatives and drive is happening. So that's the reason I say the voice of the Indian AC sector. And when it comes to the BIM capable professionals in terms of technical, you have plenty of people who can do the modeling, documentation, you know, at very reasonable price. They are available, and a lot of services are given to the global sector. And you speak to them, you get to know a lot of projects are delivered. So that's the reason I bring in the voice. And also when it comes to the different field players, you know, the technology vendors are there, and the policymakers are there, and the industry people are there, researchers, academia. There's a need for connecting these things, and that's what we currently do, help them in networking, understand the key requirements to connect and activate the transformation to happen. So these are the areas where we focus on the initiatives to bring that voice in the community, understand their challenges, and also understand what are the key way forward through some events, locally organized events and forums. And there are a lot of people who understand and get that connects and have these startups and take it further. The most important thing, understand the whole perspective and bring the connects and execute it. And if you want to execute, then you have to know the right people to work with you on those lines. So that's the kind of initiatives we currently do.
I see. Any challenge come across, Dr. Manat? You know, I think this has been pushing a lot, and you know, any difficulty, any challenge on this? You know, in order to voice them up, you know, asking for collaboration, you know, working with the private and the government. Any challenge from India?
Yeah, well, this is again a big country in size, and there are several state governments which comes in, and all the state governments do not align with the same thinking. They have their own mindsets and the way forward. And the central government again has its own initiatives. There are kind of authorities like airport authorities, metros and high-speed train, healthcare, and central public works department. All of these are already having the BIM mandates, especially the COVID, which has started from past 1 year and above, has driven a lot of transformation in the country, and the clients are seeing the benefits of that. So that side, COVID has helped one way in the transformation to happen. And another side, when it comes to the usage of BIM for the construction activities, so-called VDC, as what William said, you know, there's no skilled professionals yet for using it for the construction field BIM activities. And that kind of challenges are still there in the market. The team building capabilities, especially in the contractor side or subcontractor, and also the ecosystem which is required. So that's one side of the challenge. Another side, in terms of the design capabilities in the market, it's very mature, you know, in terms of providing the design services.
Yeah, totally understand. Well, we save the most difficult to the last. But if we take the Singapore into account, the long history, I think throughout the Asians, then you have a longest history of this kind of development. And we'll see quite an amazing roadmap and so on. But I do believe that maybe it's not the easy path.
Definitely,
you know,
yeah.
You
Okay,
could you,
maybe
because yeah, sure, William.
How to make it simple? Such a difficult question. Okay, I can think of it. I mean, this animal is familiar to you, an elephant, right? I think the journey to BIM is like imagining an animal. You don't even know it's an elephant, right? We are touching, every time we start to feel the animal, we think we know about it, and then suddenly we face a lot of new challenges. That's why in our journey, we progress from BIM to VDC and then to IDD. So every time we think we've reached it, then we find another new part of it that gives us a challenge. So until now, I can tell you, we still don't get the whole big elephant yet. Okay, you don't know how this thing will actually look. But I think we are getting there, and through this experience, and even through the sharing of the various members here, I find that there's a common thread in the sense that whatever we are facing, we also have gone through the similar kind of issue. For instance, like manpower issue, right? All the time, as Francis has said, it's correct. You know, we train a lot of the younger people who are very good at computers, but they lack the knowledge. So what happens at one time, or at one point or another, in some of the firms, two guys sitting in front of a computer, one the senior guy telling the younger guy who operates the machine what to do. But if you look at it, is that helping productivity? You know, you need 2 person, and the senior guy, his cost is very high, right? So yeah, we've gone through that. So that's why I feel that we really need to this so-called accreditation, and I'm glad that Hong Kong has this accreditation done. We just started on this as well, and perhaps as you know, this globalization and all that, and also so Singaporean may go over Hong Kong may come over to work. Maybe we can do some form of cross recognition, right? Provided we recognize each other, then when this person come over, your Hong Kong guy, if he has this BIM manager role come over, and we recognize him as that role, then well and good, no? And this is one way of collaboration that I feel that we can do. The other way is, I understand that different countries have got different so-called level of BIM adoption. But doesn't matter because somehow I think we will probably hit almost similar issues. So if you can learn from each other, then perhaps what took us 5 years to reach that point, maybe you guys can take it in 2 years, right? It is possible because now we have the foreknowledge. For us, whereas for us, we started early, but we faced a lot of, you're right, it's not a simple journey as much as I make it look like so simple, it is not easy at all right? Although it seems like it's like a government led, but actually the government, initially, yes, the government led, but they face so much problem that in the end, they also say, look, we need you guys to help me, right? We cannot push it alone. So that's why you find that the steering committee is actually formed the majority of the stakeholders. So initially, in fact, we did slow down the government. Government has got a very ambitious plan, but we tell them that, look, the industry is not ready. You don't have the correct type of people to train the right people, the right skill set, and your software are even not up to that level yet. You know, you need time for the software to be better and better. So that's why initial part, we took quite a while. It's not that the government wants to do it, but in fact, it's the so-called the industry slowed down. We say we're not ready. But once we get a hang of it, actually right now, you look at it, we know the benefit. It's not an issue of telling you why should we go BIM. It's how can we use it as fast and as quickly and as more efficient as possible. That is our current aim. That's why now we are quickly looking, identify the issue. We need a good CDE platform. There are a lot of current CDE platform out there already, but every research platform we look at it, there are some shortfall that don't quite really meet what we wanted, because I guess every country's so-called construction activity will be slightly different. So what it works for us may not work for you, or vice versa. So we have to really, like I said, mention, identify the gap, establish objective, and then find ways and means of how to achieve it. It has to be a win-win situation. You cannot win and somebody lose. Then the whole industry will not work that well. So right now our issue is how to get the downstream, the subcontractors, to take up the so-called digital delivery. You notice we are now avoiding using the word BIM, okay? Because you know that BIM is only one of the tools, right? In order to make the whole digital delivery work all the way up to FM, right? We realize that you need more than BIM. So, well, there are a lot more to share, but I think we're running out of time.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, we can have more of this forum, and I'm sure we will start to find out what this big animal is all about.
I think we are facing enough to explain what is BIM, and now we have to go beyond BIM. So that's another challenge to communicate to stakeholders.
Yes.
What interesting is about, accreditation, and so on. And something is very special for Asia, and then that's the way of guiding us into this kind of environment. Work could be collaboratively. I think the professions right now, or even the education, go across different countries. So how we can actually building up the skill set that would be certified. On my skill set, I can work in Hong Kong, I can work in India, I can work in Vietnam. Is it possibility there's a way?
If you look at how to manage the BIM software, actually, you can actually identify into the various level. We started the accreditation scheme in Singapore, not just on that alone. We actually took what we have a series of what we call transformation map for the whole industry, not just the building sector, but across all industry. So we realized that for career path in the building industry, right, in terms of this technology is still a bit lacking. And that's why we created this new career path called the Digital Delivery Management track. By doing so, we are actually trying to achieve two things. One, we set now a new career path so that entrance to the building industry can come in and then see this as a career path, so-called progression. So they can come in as a very low entry level, right? Especially we got a lot of, we actually tie with the university and all that. So we tell them that, look, the industry need this type of people. So in your training, in your building up your students, you work along that line, what is required. So we talk about what is required of the skill set and competency level. Then these people, when they when they graduate from school, they can start from a low level, right? We make it very easy for you to come in at a level 4, basically as a modeler, and then we recognize your skill as you work your way up from modeler to a coordinator, then to a BIM manager. Now, of course, right on top will be your BIM director. You manage a BIM team and all that. So I find that this is very key. In fact, I already Building Smart mooted this idea 5 years ago. By that time, the industry is not quite ready. So we actually held this back until only last year. But again, it's not easy. It took us almost a year to really harmonize in terms of the so-called the Institute of Higher Learning. We make sure the poly and the universities are all aligned in this. At the same time, we seek a lot of so-called guidance from the industry. Exactly what you want this person to have, to be, the competency level, what kind of skill set is required. So I think we are quite ready in this, in the sense that once we have this accreditation, not only that, then we also allow, this is called the vertical progression, right? From level 4 to level 1. We also allow cross horizontal. That means you can be an architect by training, but if you're good at this digital, in fact, you can move sideways and come in probably at level 2 or level 3, right? Maybe you can come in at level 2 because you're well-versed in coordination and all that, and then you work up and become a BIM manager somewhere down the line. So likewise, a project manager, right? Maybe he's good at digital, he can come in because he has a skill of how to manage a project. So this is what is lacking. You get a very good guy who can work the software, but if you do not have the so-called experience, and this will, you're right, you know, as one of the speakers mentioned, you need a lot of years to get this kind of experience. So good. So now we see in a way, a career advancement. So this guy who's got lots of experience start to have interest in digital, and then he can come in and then he can progress quite easily up the ladder. So if we keep on continue doing this, and if every country does the same way, then it's a matter of time we can recognize each other at that level, and then we just accept it. So again, once you think out of the country, I guess as a region, we can again progress in this manner.
Yeah. I think that's kind of good approach. I think it will be parallel the same way as a standardized. We facing now, you know, work collaboratively. You know, I have a work in Vietnam actually I work in Thailand, I have in Hong Kong, but why we talking to different languages and you know, implementation and so on. So I think somehow we can alignment. Well, one standard from one country couldn't be matching up to another country. I absolutely understand, but somehow it's a basic common setting up that we can talk and so on. Right. I think there's quite a few questions, of course, from audience. You know, talk about a technical aspect and, you know, data security and so on. And one last question I want to touch base, you know, I think this is one of the good questions from audience. We talk about now we work collaboratively. What is the ideas of the information security or data security? So I kind of like this kind of question. And we working, well, workforce from, let's say, from Hong Kong, and then there's a project in India, and then how we secure this data security, and what's the meaning of new data security? So this kind of big, you know, because comparing to like kind of hard copy, you know, or even 2D CAD, right? Now we talk about like virtual environment. So anyone want to jump over, perhaps? I mentioned about India, maybe Dr. Manhat.
Yeah, we can share a little bit here. We have a long argument on this item, in particular when we are popular in using Autodesk product, and then we say CDE is a good platform for people to work on, and then they have security, and then the first question is that they don't have a server in Hong Kong, and then people talk about let's do security. So how can we put our data outside Hong Kong? And in fact, we have another questions to them saying, okay, although we can put all our information in the CDE, and then you can set all the asset right to people. So if you don't have the rights, you cannot reach the information. But I said, for those modeler, they can save as their model in their local drive, and then they can pass it on to somebody else. So I asked Autodesk, can you set your reference software that you don't have save as. You can only save it to the CDE, and then this is the only way to secure the information like Microsoft SharePoint. You cannot save it to your local hard disk. But unfortunately, at the moment, we still have this problem. And it's quite hard to have absolute security to the information. And we can only rely on traditionally, like when we work on drawings, we rely on people, they sign the NDA, and then they promise not to leak the information, and that's it. We cannot rely on the technology.
To the legal part, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Manat, do you have anything one?
Well, this is a kind of challenge when it comes to data security, especially for the defense kind of projects. You know, when you want to bring in BIM as a key influencer for the digital transformation, you speak to any vendors, including Autodesk, Bentley, Trimble, Dassault, Bexel, Acker. There are like 20, 30 vendors in the market. As Francis was saying, there is no servers or data centers in that particular country. It becomes a challenge for bringing in. But there also there's also options coming in from different vendors saying that you set up your own servers and we help you to coordinate on those things. So that's the kind of situations when we think of a data security. And in fact, I mean, there's a challenge which has to be addressed by all the tech vendors, when it comes to the CDE. When we are speaking about the integrated BIM in the coming years and also the open BIM, it's very much important to make sure not just having the platform ready, it's also about the project stakeholders sharing their data. When it comes to a contractor or a design or a PMC, not everyone will be willing to share their data as crystal clear as expected. So this is also one of the challenges, so where integrated project delivery has to come in and make sure what are the kind of contractual arrangements. So one side it's about the people, and it says another side it's about the technology. Both sides it has to be addressed to have that kind of data sharing and security.
Well, thank you, Dr. Manat. And Patrick or William, Bin, if you have any other thought, that would be great.
I think technology-wise, I think it's possible to build something on the cloud to have a very high security. So, but I think as mentioned by Francis and Manas, that there are some complexities among stakeholders. But say if you are the owner and like TSMC, that they just don't allow you to take any computer devices into their factory, right? And any projects, you just have to walk within, and there's no way that you can walk out with any digital information. But that's not through the cloud management, but it's physically. They just manage it that way. So there's no way that you can copy things out, right? So I think there are ways to do it, but it comes with the cost. And then if it's necessary to do it or not, and I think that's something that the owner, I think owner plays a big role on this. Yeah. And there are some other issues that some architect probably would say, no, I'm not going to, you have to buy my information. I mean, right? That's my right. I mean, so those are the things, yeah. But in terms of technology, I think it's ready. Yeah, that's my opinion. Yeah.
And we have some similar situation for our railway projects. They set up project office. So people need to sit in their office, use their computer, use their server. But since the COVID-19, it doesn't work. And also for some project team, actually, we have international team members. So they cannot come to your premises anyway. So, and they don't have big premises for everybody. So eventually we have to rely on cloud, no matter how. So we can just rely on the integrity of people to keep the information security.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually,
on the cloud, you can set up these virtual machines, so everyone log in, and then the environment is created by the security settings. So even on the cloud, you may not even have the access to internet to other places. So it can be well controlled technology-wise. But then the basic thing or requirement is that you need to have very good network bandwidth for doing all this. So as long as you have a very good network bandwidth, and then things can be done. Yeah.
yeah, actually, I agree with Prof. Xia. I mean, but we have to, I guess, we need to balance, right? As much as you want security, the more security you have, actually, you create some inconvenience to your workflow. So you have to look at what kind of project. Is it a very government sensitive project? Then maybe the so-called, in fact, in Singapore, some of them, they have their own private cloud. So only members of them can access to this. But like I said, you can put in a lot of security features, but bear in mind that the more features you have, you will actually slow down or create some obstacles in your data flow. So there's no right or wrong answer, right? As much as you need to be careful, but yet sometimes you can become too careful that your project will suffer in a sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you just have to keep your minds open, but I agree technology-wise, it is possible to put in some of these features there already. But again, even the states, right? People can hack into the system. I mean, those are not simple thing, you know. So if you want to do it, there is a way, right? But yeah, so again, we have to look at it from a holistic point of view. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, William, though.
Sam, we want to add about the Asia BIM collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
See, when we say about ABC, I think coming year we'll have more countries to participate together, and we'll have a long duration for each country to represent. And the key areas we have to focus is one on education and certification, which is very important. As you said, a person once getting that skills and competencies should be able to work anywhere, at least in Asia to start with. And the second, when it comes to the events, which will help people to network and understand what are the kind of service areas and people can coordinate for their services. And the third is when it comes to the standardization, because even though we have a global standards, which is coming in as an ISO, but it's also important to understand a project specific standard guideline requirements, as BIM was showing about the different kind of standards for buildings, for healthcare, for railways, for metros. It's also important for each of these sectors to understand the way of implementing BIM. Maybe some initiative to have some kind of guidelines for each project type. Some initiatives on a standard level at Asia level, if we can focus, that's also going to help.
Okay.
That's great. That's great, Dr. Amanat. I think, well, it's coming forward to the end. We wish that we can talk the whole day. There's a lot of point, the message we actually can become to it up into one whole sections then. There's a lot of great questions actually. Apologize for audience if we couldn't answer them all, but key takeaway point for our conversation for over than 2 hours, of course, which is great. We talk about a lot on the standard, and a lot of different countries talk about the standard. You always standard somehow, but our point of view is sharing the common thought that perhaps this standardized or something or tools, the guideline can work across different country, can be harmonized, because now international standard, ISO or any of the list, there's multiple of them. There's so many of them. So which one we can use? And is that even good to use by our independent, good for our own country? Maybe it's not enough anymore for Asia because we work collaboratively. So this kind of thought on it. Skill set, we having facing the situations and building up the skilled people. You know, Francis talk about old generations to the new generations, what's the others kind of gap and so on. Audience like to hear the story more, of course, but we don't have time. I think that would be both in gap analysis and the lesson learned from your experience, and of course the Asia experience or any elsewhere. We facing that. And skill set, what would be the good preparation and skill set? You know, even Patrick has done a lot over education part from the past decade, and in BCA as well, right? From Singapore and of course in India. So how we elevated this kind of skill set. You know, a lot of transitioning from 2D to 3D, 3D to smart city and the map and so on. We now, you know, we do actually have a good picture, big picture lesson learned from Singapore. But it's transitioning, of course, like that. And well, for myself, I like to know inside, of course, like, you know, the kind of lesson learned. So I don't need to step into the wrong foot, you know. So I can make a minimize of my mistake, you know, as a country as a whole. So I think that's the benefit of this ABC collaboration. So we kind of learn each other. Government would take initial part. Well, the government would take an important role. And of course, the Vietnam here, you know, as a representative of government, and every single country work with the government in a different way. But ultimately, I think we want to be collaborative. We want to support each other because we looking for, I like the word from Francis, you know, we don't want to look at the independence excellency, right? Either it's government or private segment. The ultimate goal is we want to build environment, acquire their information, acquire their asset, and there's win-win situations. William said, everyone win in this case. If we want to looking for only myself to win this game, no way, right? So we break down. And facility management, you know, Patrick mentions about this, and I believe this facility management, asset management, we talk about the whole life cycle of the project, and it's beyond only the design and construction. And we understand that statistically, even operation costs even higher than building costs. And the asset and facility management would be always to be the last thing that we talk about. No, it's totally wrong. I think it was something that we want to pick things up, and there's a lot of things that we can talk. And well, thank you, appreciate for our keynote, every single different country, and this started point. We don't want to stop. Am I right, Dr. Amanat? And you have a whole network on it. The different. This is just a sample, and to say it straight to life, you know, we didn't say Asia is only 6 countries. No, I think we good friends, and we kindly talk and share our thought, and we of course we love to expand this and learn from each other. And you guys, well, thank you, appreciate for your energy and passion to give it contribution, knowledge, and you know, for this good lesson learned. On behalf of, you know, BCT organization and Thai BIM Association and audience and so on, would thank you and appreciate. My pleasure to host this event, and let's take turn for the next round, and to tell the audience that we're looking forward for publishing our white paper. So it's something that would be the first step on our working collaboration. So who knows, in the future that we would have actually having maybe a guideline for Asia, or good education throughout Asia, perhaps. Right. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
All. Thank you.
Right.
You all.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry for my camera problem. Yeah.
Well, we need to have a individual show to, you know, Patrick, for the next round. All right. Have a good night, guys.
Yeah.
All right. Good night.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.